Yeah, we're live.
Alright, that's and we're back, I guess. Maybe we'll see. I'm gonna double check first.
Can we check?
Well, we just went live on YouTube for sure. I just got the while we stand here. I don't see us on Twitch.
What?
Oh, God.
We're definitely live. I'm pretty sure we're live on YouTube, though. The one that no one watches.
Sweet.
So is it a Twitch problem?
Video preview.
I'm pretty sure we're live on YouTube, though. The one that no one watches.
It'd be great if someone was watching.
It's probably a Let me
So
check
is
the
it-
Twitch subreddit.
So if we take down the restream and just cut
Just
off
stream to
just to
YouTube.
Twitch.
I don't know.
Well, YouTube says it's online, but Twitch is still just spinning.
Yeah.
I mean, we can try directly to Twitch if you guys want to.
Yeah. Well,
But it sounds like it's a Twitch problem.
it says it's online now.
Okay. Maybe. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Up live. Woo!
There we go.
And we're back. Hopefully. Okay. Let's see if it comes through.
Yeah.
Up live. Woo!
There we go.
Let's just sit here and let it loop over and over. Alright, so let's assume that we got through the news before it went dead, so we don't actually know when it went dead.
So let's just reintroduce. So our first topic tonight will be becoming a competitive player series, and we'll lead off with why you would want to become a competitive player.
Yep, yeah, because today we're going to just cover all the random little nitpicky things that don't fit into there in an episode. So it might be a little scatterbrained, but we'll hopefully be able to cover some stuff that people find enjoyable. So like Matt said, why do you want to become a competitive player? Because I know why I became a competitive player. Because I like competing.
You thought about that one a long time, didn't you?
And Andre and I were talking last week, I think it was, about like he more became right. You said
Yeah, I mean, I became a more competitive player just because of who my friends were, and I mean, we're going to tournaments. There's no reason not to compete.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me too. I started playing Magic in my friend's bedroom. We just played the casualist decks.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until like I started meeting like people like Tuttle,
Mm-hmm.
and Tuttle was like that F&M grinder, and it made me want to try to catch up.
Yeah.
And then I met you and Hoffman and Andre, and going to bigger tournaments, and
Yep. And you played on a team with me and won for. Yeah, so that's why we wanted to become a more competitive player. A lot of people think of competitive players as pros, as people who play Magic as their only source of income, which can be correct. There are people who do that. But I pulled together a few articles by people on that about why it's not necessarily the greatest idea to depend on Magic as your only source of income.
Right.
We don't necessarily need to pull the articles up themselves. I just wanted to throw the links in the chat, and I'll put them in the show notes on YouTube. Just because it talks about the fact that being a pro Magic player, you depend way too much on tournaments that have way too high a variance. Because, like, even though you see the same players winning consistently, they don't win consistently enough to make any more than like $10,000 to $20,000 a year, and that's maybe if you're doing insanely well. So you're making around minimum wage, if not less than minimum wage.
Yeah, because you have to pay for like travel expenses, food, and things like that. And decks.
Yeah,
like you're still paying for the cards unless you have sponsors and things like that. And
yeah, because the places that a lot of the pros make most of their money is content creation. Like look at people like Paul Cheon who stream a lot, or
LSV.
LSV. Well, LSV is different because he just has his own career. He started a magic business in Channel Fireball, and he also works at a game design place and stuff like that. That's another version of Magic Pro, which I think is what a lot of people should strive to do, is have a real career outside of Magic and then play Magic really well while you're playing it. Is, I think, the more realistic approach to it. But the main idea is don't shoot for the stars. Play more competitive Magic because you want to, not because you think it's a great career idea.
Yeah.
And just let it go where you want it to go. The next thing to talk about are tips and tricks leading up to and at the event itself. So the first part is deciding what events to go to. How do we decide what events to go to?
I mean, I think depending on how the format is, if I determine it's fun, like I think that's important for me. Like I don't want to go somewhere that has a huge payout in a format I don't really want to play. Like I'm not
exactly.
I'm not a big
When's the
stand-
last time that we went and played a standard tournament?
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the first one is it going to be fun? Do we like modern? Do we like legacy? Do we like vintage? Are we going to go play those? Look at, I've told you guys I don't really like vintage at the moment. I don't play vintage anymore.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I do think prize support is important though,
Mhm.
because like I like playing modern. I will play locally for smaller prizes, but if we're talking about like wanting to do a weekend trip, if they're only giving like $50 in store credit, like I'm not driving 4 hours, 5 hours
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
try to win $50.
Yeah, it has to be worth it. Because, like, you can also we could just be playing Magic on Magic Online. Like, why would we travel to an event that's medium level prize support for, especially if it's more of an average event? Like, I think we're planning on going to a team F&M a week from Friday in Jersey. And honestly, it's, what, $75 buy-in, and I think first gets, like, $250 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's like not insane pricing, but I think we all find team constructed to be a really fun format, so we're doing that.
Also with that's a little bit different too, because regardless if it's got a good payout, it is fun, but it's also practice for a larger event. So I think sometimes you can look at events that can provide good feedback for where you are. For a larger scale, are definitely worth going to.
Yeah. Another thing is, are your friends going? I find it a lot more boring to go to an event that I don't know anyone else, because especially if you play a deck that doesn't go to time, you sit around a lot in between rounds. Like, yes, you can watch other matches of Magic, but it's a lot more fun having a lot of friends there for you to talk to, play little games in between, things like that.
Drive by yourself, play Belcher. Game's over, turn one, almost every time.
Yeah, that's a lot of the things we think about on what events are we going to go to and whether or not we'll go to them. Beyond that, tips and tricks for the event itself, the day of the event, things like that, like what to bring. First of all, bring snacks and drinks. I know a lot of people mention that you should bring healthy drinks and healthy snacks, which I think is correct to an extent. I think you shouldn't really change your diet vastly on the day of the event, because one, you could have it affects your body to change your diet from day to day, and you'd rather keep everything going at not the same pace, but just not make any drastic changes that could throw you off.
I do think it's important to be drinking like water though. Like don't be drinking a bunch of like Mountain Dew or Coke all day, because it does dehydrate you.
Yes.
And that can definitely adversely affect your gameplay when dehydrated.
I know one thing that I always mention to people, but I never do a good job at doing: get lots of sleep the night before. Even though I don't think any of us ever sleep well before a day of Magic. One little trick I find when sleeping the night before is a lot of people try and go to bed early to get more sleep. I find, at least for me personally, it's better to go to bed at the same time that you normally do and wake up early the next day, just because your body's used to falling asleep at that time. And if you go to bed earlier, you'll just toss and turn all night.
Yeah.
Little things to bring: pen and paper for life total. A lot easier than asking people for pen and paper.
Or spin downs.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't be using spin downs in tournament Magic.
Not at all.
Your deck. Obviously, bring your deck. I have shown up to tournaments without my deck because I left it at home. Yes, you can ask around and probably find a deck to play, but it's going to be a suboptimal, like, Scred list or something like that.
That's offensive.
No, I didn't say Scred's suboptimal. I said it's going to be a suboptimal Scred list.
Okay, alright.
A charger for your phone, especially nowadays when everyone has smartphones that aren't great on battery life. And especially if you're using it as a GPS, you should just have a charger for your phone. That way you're not... I know a ton of Magic players who always seem to be hitting like 5% when they sit down in the car. And there's always only one USB charger in the car and everyone's begging to use it. Unless if you're planning on playing side events or trading, then bring the decks that you will play side events with and bring your trade binder if you're planning on trading. But beyond that, don't bring your whole collection of Magic to a tournament.
Honestly, unless you're planning on like selling a big chunk of your trade binder, like more than trading, like just trading out of it, I don't think bringing your full trade binder, like there's just so much value in a trade binder a lot of times that it's just book bags are prime targets to just get picked up.
Yeah, you see all these stories of people missing or losing or getting their collection stolen at events, and
just bring the deck you're going to play. One, it's a lot lighter. Two, you're not going to lose as much if people steal stuff from you. Make sure and bring money for the event. Figure out if they take card or cash, or if you have to pre-reg. I know it used to be you could register for GPs the day of with card or cash. Now you have to pre-register by Friday night. So you have to look into things like that. Look if you're going to get there that day and be like, oh, I'm the last person, and there's only room for 120. I know that happened at the Legacy event I went to over the weekend. They only had room for 120 people, and there were like 10 people who had to not play. And last but not least, on things to think about for the tournament itself, should you get a hotel or make it a day trip?
And if you do decide to get the hotel, I feel like it should go without saying, but there are cases where you hear stories of people who didn't think of it, but you should book your hotel in advance.
Yeah, especially at things like GPs or opens or stuff. There's going to be thousands or hundreds, maybe not thousands, of other nerds in the city doing the same thing as you. So especially the hotels right next to the venue are going to fill up.
Yeah,
fill up quickly.
A lot of the time, if you're willing to walk or drive a little farther, you're going to get a better deal in a hotel than the hotels that the venues themselves pull aside, so keep that in mind. A rule of thumb is, for me at least, is I'd rather have the hotel for the night after a tournament than the night before a tournament if I'm only going to get it for one night. Because I'm fine getting up early and driving to an event. It's after a day of playing Magic for 12 hours that you feel like you're going to fall asleep at the wheel, and you'd rather just go to a hotel and rest. But if you can, get it for both nights. But if you can't, I'd rather have it the night after than the night before. Beyond that, I don't think there's anything else that you need to care about for the tournament itself. You guys have anything else that you need to remember?
No. Much covered it all.
I do think the boogie boards, those electronic boards,
instead of paper,
are way better than paper. It's just much more convenient.
Yeah. I do have to say the boogie boards are nice, But if this will go into more like practice, like in future episodes when we talk about practicing. One nice thing to do is take notes throughout a tournament.
Have permanent recollection of your decisions and your thought process.
Which you can still do with have the boogie board just for life totals, and then have a separate notebook that you write down, or do it on your phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Just keep notes. But yeah, beyond that, I don't think you need anything else. Obviously, if your deck needs it, bring tokens or counters or things like that.
Extra sleeves.
Extra sleeves, yeah. Yeah, that's another one. I never bring extra sleeves, so I always end up by the end of a tournament having to have one of my sideboard cards be unsleeved, and if I bring it in, I have to switch out the sleeves. But last but not least for this, we wanted to talk about expectations for becoming a competitive Magic player.
Definitely.
I think anybody who wants to go and compete should always expect to win. Mm-hmm. Like you shouldn't have the expectation of, I'm just gonna go in and get crushed, because that puts you in the wrong mindset to play. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, realistically, for a new player, especially with a new deck, it's really hard to just actually expect to win. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like realistically you should expect to do your best.
Mm-hmm. It's not just that. It's not even for a new player or new deck. It's just if you go in there expecting to win and you lose, it kind of puts you in a position to kind of get distracted by your results, and it doesn't put you in the frame of mind to kind of shake it off and do better the next round.
Yep.
Where if you come in with an expectation like, hey, I'm gonna lose, even the pros lose, that they're not perfect. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, but I think there's a difference between expecting to lose and being prepared if you do lose.
Correct. Yeah. Time, I mean, having that, managing your expectations of I'm not going to win every match is important.
Yeah, it's definitely something that takes a lot of practice, because you can't just tell someone to expect to win. But then if you don't win, it's not the end of the world, because a lot of times if you say expect to win, then people get tilted.
It's this will decide the whole tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
And
a lot of the time when people in everyday life mention the whole live in the moment, don't think of everything, I think it's a lot of BS. I don't know. I find that thinking of everything instead of being just in the moment isn't great. But in Magic, I think being in the moment is really good. Playing each match as its own separate match, that yes, they accumulate to be a whole tournament of winning or losing, but you can't let losing last round affect playing this round.
Yeah, I agree. In sports, they always tell you to have a short memory. Mm-hmm. Don't remember your wins, because that creates arrogance. Don't remember your losses, because that just creates doubt and
Yeah, how do you think that's going tonight for the Cavs?
I mean, they started off 0-2 the last year.
Yep.
So harsh.
But yeah, so I think that's everything for the intro to becoming a competitive player. Like I said, the next couple of topics we'll do are going to be a lot more constructed than this. This was just out there to fill in blanks where things won't be. I think the next one we're going to talk about picking a deck, building decks, or net decking, whether or not you should do either metagame, or I guess metagaming is going to be its own separate thing, but it's just picking and building decks is what we'll talk about next. So now we move on to, so if 123 comes up, I think we have to respin, right?
123.
Yep. Okay. But you should pull the webpage up on the stream so people see that you're not cheating. I'm pretty sure we went through and pulled all the people that have anything to do with the stream, either us or our spouses / significant others. But I think if they accidentally come up, we should reroll also, but I'm pretty sure we pulled all that out. That way Andre's wife can't win again. Now while Andre figures out the technical stuff.
Yeah, well, I will.
Alright, well, he's talking about that. Yeah.
So the team event.
Yeah, what are we planning on playing?
I still think that our two best go-tos for Legacy would be Eldrazi or Grixis Delver.
Mm-hmm.
I think the group has a lot of practice and familiarity with those two decks. I think they're very powerful.
Yep.
And with Miracles kind of disappearing, I think
at least good Miracles. Topless Miracles still played, not a good deck. I played against it 3 times this weekend. Not great.
I think we should play Infect in Modern.
Yeah, just because that's the deck that any of the 3 of us has the most practice with the last couple of months, or like the last year, honestly.
Except for Scred, but I would pick Infect competitively over Scred. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then Aetherworks Marvel, or I think we have put together. I think that's just the correct go-to deck for Standard.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
That's fair.
All right, so drum roll.
We get 37. 37 is Joshua Aaron Miller. Congratulations on winning your Goif.
Do we even know who that is, or do we have to look it up on Facebook?
We'll look him up on Facebook.
All right, congrats, Joshua. We will contact you on Facebook to see if you want us to ship it or if you'll come get it. Yeah, congrats on that. Woo.
All right. Now we're moving back to our second topic.
The real price of Magic. Ooh, I should have gotten Price of Progress to bring up for this. Now that I think about it. But yeah, the real price of Magic. Is it a problem? So first of all, should Wizards of the Coast care about the price of Magic?
I think, well, it's twofold. So if they want to continue to have like modern Legacy GPs, and I don't know how successful their Eternal Weekend is, but also that there is a barrier of entry into those tournaments because the cost of the cards, because of the reserve list. So if they care about that and they want to have increased amount of GPs in those formats, then they should care. But if they're just going to go transition into a viewpoint of not caring about modern or Eternal formats in general and just focus on standard Grand Prix and events, then they probably won't care. And to be honest, they probably shouldn't from a business standpoint.
Okay.
Personally, I think they should because I like Eternal. In our group, that's what we prefer is Eternal formats, whether it's Legacy, Modern, or Vintage.
Yeah.
And granted, we're not really high on Vintage right now, but
people understand it.
I think it goes deeper than that though too, because even within Standard, I mean, we've had Standard formats that have cost a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like any time that any format feels like it's too expensive, you start to see like a dip in like traffic and like in tournaments and things. I think box sales kind of start to wane. I think it's healthy for the players. I think it's healthy for Wizards to make the game affordable, because the more affordable it is, the more they buy. And I mean, I think box prices are at a good price. I think so that's not changing. So with box prices staying the same and making the singles a little bit more affordable, I mean, you're seeing a lot more flow in sales, and I think that will retain players longer in Standard, or like and it'll allow more people to come in, so you don't have this like constant flow of people leaving the format while people are coming in, and it can actually grow and make the it can definitely make the game healthier with more players, because more players means more people like thinking, also like the more different eyes, different thought processes, different decks too at the same time. So I think they should care about the price of Magic, because if they let things get to the point where they were heading, then it could be like the end of competitive Magic also.
At least competitive Eternal Magic, which I think is honestly the best Magic. I think.
I agree. How do you feel about
it? So I think if you had asked me a year ago if Wizards cared about the price of the secondary market, I think I would have said they don't. But now I think it's leaning towards they do care about the price, because if you look at things that Wizards has done in recent years to offset the price, they've done things like master sets. They've been doing that for a long time. But if you look at the recent master sets versus the original Modern Masters, it's leagues ahead in terms of actually affecting the price. Like, Modern Masters actually hiked the price of a lot of the cards because of the limited print run.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and like that, in and of itself, makes me think that Wizards has always cared. They just probably didn't know how to do it. Like, I think they're getting to the point now where they know exactly how to manage the card market, the secondary card market, because of how well the master sets have been printed. Because you look at, like you said, you look at Modern Masters 1, and it was such a limited print run that it actually increased the prices of cards, where now with Modern Masters 2016?
It's 2016.
Is it 2016? The card prices, since it's such a large print run, that the card prices have actually come down a bit, and there's more cards now, so they're easily accessible, which wasn't a huge problem in Modern. In Legacy, you see a huge problem with, like, there's only a limited amount of cards, and more so in Vintage as well. Like, these cards are sold that there's not many running around because someone put them through a washer,
and they can't be reprinted.
Exactly.
With
most of them.
And if you look at the master sets, it's really interesting too, because with Modern Masters 1, I think they got it right, like the how to build a master set right. But then what they did wrong was how many of the boxes that they printed, like the limited supply was not the way to go. But then in 2, they're like, well, let's open it up a bit, but they didn't like make the box well.
They printed more of them, but they just didn't print as many good cards in them.
And the good cards were cards that were just printed in the first one, like the Tarmogoyf and the Vendilion.
So it was like Modern Masters 1 and 2 were... Modern Masters 2 was them fixing Modern Masters 1, essentially.
It wasn't until like Eternal Masters and Modern Masters 17.
Is it 17?
Yeah.
See, I was right. Sucker.
It wasn't until Modern Masters 17, really, that I feel like that they, like... Because they kind of bit...
I think you're right. I think Modern Masters 2 was a Band-Aid or a fix-all to fix their, like, limited print run in Modern Masters 1, because it was it wasn't identical, but it was a lot of the same cards. But Eternal Masters and then Modern Masters 3 was huge. They printed a lot of high dollar value cards that needed reprinted for the purpose of getting those in players' hands. So, like, because maybe not me, but if a random person opens a Misty Rainforest, they're probably more likely to play a blue deck or a green deck, and then want to finish their play set, unless they're not a competitive player from that perspective. So,
that, and I think every pack has just this chance of, like, even like your medium rares, and even some of your uncommons just pay for the pack, and it just creates this, like, atmosphere of, like, wanting to just open those packs. Like, you feel less punished for opening a pack of Modern Master 17 than you do any other pack. And
that's one of the things that we were talking about the other day too, is that the fact that if there was a limited, like, if they would have limited the print run like they did in the other master sets, and then the value of the box unopened is higher than whatever you could open in there, so that if they were... So they just boxes probably wouldn't be open, which is, I think, part of the problem why the prices went up, even though they were reprinting or expensive cards. Where now they've printed so much that it doesn't matter, because cards that they know a certain amount are going to get opened, and the prices are coming down. So therefore, it leveled the value of the box. So that cards would be open, because it doesn't matter. You're not keeping it in your basement for a rainy day, so you can sell the box for 4 times the amount.
So the master sets have been one way that they've been better about price. I think the second way that's made Standard a lot cheaper since, like, Siege Rhino times and stuff like that was masterpieces, and I don't know what the official word for all of them across all sets, but masterpieces, expeditions, all...
It's the masterpieces, because it's the inventions, right? Or what they called it the Invention series for Kaladesh.
No, they were called Masterpieces for Kaladesh because they're called.
Yeah, there were Masterpieces for Kaladesh, Expeditions for Zendikar,
and their
Invocations for
Invocations. Yeah, so the promo reprints that are like hyper rare in standard sets. I think that has done a lot to make standard a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Because look at, I think the winningest deck at the moment in standard is only about tops out at $200 for a paper version of the deck, as opposed to back in Siege Rhino times or back in like Flip Jace times. You could look at paying $800 to $1,000 for a standard deck.
Jason, when he was played, when he was in standard, was what, $75?
Yeah,
is what we bought him at.
Yeah,
and what is he, $20? I mean, granted, he's rotated
like
out.
35.
Yeah,
but yeah, and I definitely think $1,000 for a rotating format is absurd.
Yeah,
like it's hard to justify as just an average player, even to a degree like those. Like moderate level competitors, the ones that maybe go out to a big tournament like monthly or even less. It's hard to justify $1,000 when its payout probably is less than that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think Masterpieces are another way that one, it makes opening packs fun even after standard rares are not worth anything. Two, it's made because of that. It makes standard cheaper because everyone's opening packs to win the lottery.
Yep.
I do like the comment. Masterpieces made standard a brewer's paradise. Standard is cheap. It definitely does make it easier to go. Yeah, this is a fun deck. I didn't spend $1 million to just do something goofy in a standard deck.
Yep.
There are a lot of decks right now that you can just build just to have a good time, and you don't feel immediately punished because like your wallet isn't like just empty because of these goofy fun F&M level decks.
One last thing that I don't think Wizards necessarily did because of price, but it has affected the price, is pushing commons and uncommons to levels that are a lot higher than they used to.
Yeah, agreed.
Because look at
like Fatal Push.
Yeah, even Fatal Push. Like, look at my biggest thing to point out to people is compare Grixis Delver in Legacy to like Bug Delver in Legacy. So Bug Delver is a deck made of pretty much all mythics and rares in Goyf, Liliana, things like that. That's really expensive, as opposed to Grixis Delver. That I like to point out to people, once you buy the mana bases and Force Wills, Grixis Delver is really cheap to build except for the sideboard. It's all commons and uncommons, and maybe the rares and Deathrite Shaman, but those are relatively cheap.
Yeah.
So just pushing uncommons and uncommons and commons like Pyromancer, like Delver, like Gurmag Angler, like Treasure Cruise when it was legal. Look at, you could play Blue-Red Delver that was stupid cheap and it was the best deck in the format.
I definitely think that Wizards is finally starting to like, I don't know, I think they're listening. I do. I think they're seeing that it's hard to be a standard player, especially with prices spiking everywhere. And like I said earlier, it's healthy for everybody. If the prices are low, then more people are buying boxes.
Yes.
Which is good for Wizards. And prices being low allow more people to play, which is good for it's good for the players, obviously, to be able to build their deck for a fifth of the price of what it used to cost them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all the stuff that I thought of Wizards doing to affect the prices. And I do think they care about it. I do think they should care about it. And I think we're turning towards a good place in Magic. One last thing that we wanted to point out was the fallacy that Standard's the cheapest format. Even though we just spent time arguing that Standard's super cheap, I think short term it is cheaper. But long term, buying a Modern or Legacy deck for $500 to $1,000, but it not rotating every 2 years, can save you a significant amount of money over spending $200 to $300 every year or two on the new standard deck.
Like, I think that was my biggest pull towards the Eternal formats, is that, yeah, there's a huge expense up front, and that barrier entry is great, but once you get there and build your deck, or whatever deck it may be, one, you have that deck and it doesn't rotate. So maybe they add a couple cards here and there throughout the years, but you have that deck for its existence unless something gets banned. But then you also get the advantage to that also is you get to play that deck all the time, so you get proficient with playing that deck. It was like when I first built Infect. Granted, it wasn't tier 1 at that point, but I built it. It was on the cheaper end, and then it became good. And all I had to do was buy a couple cards here and there as they were printed, and then I just became really good at playing Infect.
Yeah.
I also think that with Legacy and Modern and the stability that it brings with not rotating, it allows you to buy the deck in chunks. Like, it might take you a year or two to finish your Legacy deck, because like duels can get kind of pricey, Force Wills can get kind of pricey, you know. But being able to buy like a duel with this paycheck and a duel with the next paycheck, and like maybe a Force Will here or there, you can eventually get there.
Yes.
And once you're there, you've got it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Standard, you don't really have that luxury. You need to buy it now, because not only do the decks rotate, but new sets coming out like every 3 months. It kind of gets shaken up a little bit.
Yes.
And the deck you were like slowly building up towards could just no longer be relevant. And that's just like a pure waste of money.
Yeah.
Like, but also with the stability of non-rotating, it allows you, if you're a competitive player, to go to tournaments over years with the same deck.
Yes.
And just keep winning. And like, if you do well enough, you can effectively pay for the deck.
Yeah.
Whereas it's a lot harder as a like for a player in Standard. Just because of the time period you have with your cards, you know.
Yeah, and especially since like new sets can affect Modern and Legacy in ways that change the metagame, but Modern and Legacy decks are powerful enough that they don't become unplayable garbage that easily, whereas Standard, a metagame shift can just make your deck unplayable garbage.
Well, and yeah, just
so yeah, so that's unless you guys have anything else to say about the price of Magic and whether or not.
No, I'm good.
no.
Right. So now that we're over with our two main topics, I just have a little sign-off story from the weekend.
You want to do that first?
What the?
Finish
What
Not
mention
at
of
the
social
rail,
media? Don't you do social media after this?
No, I meant our sponsor. Sorry, since we didn't mention Safe Point at the beginning.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
I missed that part.
All right. Now that Andre's done derailing the whole thing.
That's my job, right?
So this Sunday, I went to a Legacy event with my friends. Obviously not you guys, because you guys had to work.
Yeah.
And we're not your friends.
That too.
Yeah.
You're my
Yes.
associates.
Thanks.
I took Eldrazi, thanks to Andre for letting me borrow it.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a 7-round event. I ended up going 5-2 on the day. I went 5-0 and lost both my win-ins. And the sign-off topic I want to talk about is tilting and how it can affect you and how you have to try and keep yourself from tilting. Because I expected to be able to go 5-0 and then double draw into top 8, which normally happens in like a 7-round event. You can normally expect that. But the math ended up that we weren't able to. And I have to admit that I got a little tilted by that. I let it affect my gameplay and my mindset that I couldn't double draw and I had to play another round of Magic. And I ended up making a mistake the first game, actually the first turn of the first game, because I played a Eldrazi Temple instead of an Ayavugan by accident. So then I went 2-drop, and thinking that I had played the Ayavugan, I thought I could play a second 2-drop, but I couldn't because it's a Temple, not an Ayavugan. And my opponent actually ended up killing me at 2 life, so it actually ended up mattering that I couldn't play another 2/2 on turn 1. And I just did that because I just was like, sure, play this land, sure, play my 2 things. And then I realized that I couldn't play the second thing. And you just need to, if you're tilting, take a breath. One other trick is you can ask a judge if you can go to the bathroom, because they can pause the round for you, give you a time extension for you to go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom and just take a breath, step back, try and recenter yourself, and just keep playing good Magic instead of letting tilt get the best of you. Anything you guys want to add to that? Yeah.
No, I mean, tilting's huge. I can't tell you the amount of times that I just tilt off. And, like, it goes back to our first topic. Like, you can't expect to win.
Mm.
Or you can't expect to don't always expect to do well, but you should be ready to win. I know that one of my things is I am a sore loser. Like, I just, it's very hard for me to take a loss, especially because I'm just hypercritical of myself. So I always nitpick to see if I did something wrong. And if I did do something wrong, then I'm just that much harder on myself once I realize that, and that just tilts me off and derails my tournament. Like, I can start a tournament 2-0, 3-0, and that first loss will come where normal person or a professional player may be able to shake it off and continue to do well and top 8. It can completely derail the rest of my tournament. I'll just end up either losing out or dropping because it's just too much. Yeah. And I mean, with that, we'll go over those things in the future in our future topics, but like, that's part of getting better at Magic, is knowing how to manage that. And I think for myself, I think having you guys as teammates is huge, because I can bounce those ideas off of you guys and kind of get that feedback, and that helps me resolve
be a better Magic.
Be a better Magic. Resolve my tilt.
Yep.
Okay, right. Tiny, you're not allowed to tilt in the team event.
Yeah. Here.
It's like, I need to calm down, and Andre's like, well, I'm not gonna help.
Flip table.
Alright, well,
that's how we got DQ'd.
I was gonna say, I'd have a tilt story, but I'm a winner, so.
Now, if I tilt off, I'll just walk away from the match and expect you guys to 2-0. Alright, so on that note, thanks again to Save Point for being our sponsor. Don't forget to follow us on Twitch. Once we reach 30 followers, we're going to do a 6-hour gameplay stream. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and you can email us at spindownpodcast@gmail.com if you have any comments or questions.
And if there's any topics you'd like us to discuss, don't be afraid to let us know.
And join Matt and I next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern when we play the
Mirrored and Sealed.
Yeah, Mirrored and Sealed. Thanks and night.